The Quiet Warrior Show, where we help top leaders find their pathway to incredible success and a lifetime of happiness. Here is your host, Tom Dutta, The Quiet Warrior.
All right, everybody. Welcome to The Quiet Warrior Show. My name is Tom Dutta, and we're live streaming today across YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook, the next generation of broadcasting. It's a beautiful sunny day here on West Coast, Vancouver, Canada. And I'm really excited because I've got my guest in the green room. He's a fellow Canuck. For those of you who don't know what that means, well, we'll tell you. And I'm excited. The only thing is I figured out I have to call him his real name, Sean Tyler Foley or Tyler Foley, maybe Axel Foley. We're going to have a lot of fun today. Let me tell you a little bit about him, everybody. He's an accomplished film and stage performer, been acting in film and television since he was 6 years old. Sadly, his father passed away unexpectedly in a motor vehicle accident back then. He's appeared in productions including Freddy versus Jason, Door to Door, Carrie, and the musical Ragtime. He's passionate about a lot of things, and today he's the managing director of Total Buy-In, the #1 best-selling author of the book The Power to Speak Naked. And well, here he is, Tyler Foley. Tyler, welcome to the show.
Oh, Tom, I'm excited, my friend. I've been jazzed for this one. Yes, for those who don't know, north of the border, we are the proud Canucks.
We are.
Further, you're in Vancouver, so you are actually in Canuck land. So the NHL team, the Vancouver Canucks, who, although I am based in Calgary, happen to be my favorite team. So.
Well, there you go. Rapport. I mean, this guy knows how to build rapport quickly. And I have to say, I've been to your beautiful city and been into that Saddle Dome. For those who haven't been there, it's quite something. It's shaped like, guess what? A saddle.
A saddle. Not just a clever name.
And so, hey, Tyler, listen, man, you've got so much I want to talk about here. Of course, then the Power to Speak Naked is on my mind. As you know, the Quiet Warrior Show narrative is about, well, sometimes I say the gut punch, the pain or the shift we made in our life, and we did something with it. You've done a lot of things I've read in your bio. Let's go back. You know, you started doing what you're doing at an early age. And I think I read somewhere that half of your body was paralyzed for a period of time. I mean, you took all that to get to where you are today. Just take us through the story. How did it begin?
Well, very circuitous, for one, as most people's paths and lives are. It's never a straight shot. It's always a winding road somewhere.
Wait a minute. Was that a hockey pun?
Yeah, we will. Well, and I'm a goalie, which makes it worse. One of the greatest gifts that I got, actually, I got a signed puck from Thatcher Demko. So there you go. You know I'm an actual Canucks fan.
Margaret Thatcher gave you a puck. That's amazing.
Yeah, Margaret Thatcher Demko. Margaret Thatcher. No,
gotcha.
Can you imagine that the Prime Minister of Great Britain was like, and I now grant to you this little disc. I don't know why I'm giving it to you, but it's a great honor, I'm told.
It's a black crumpet.
It's a black crumpet. Yeah. It's a little dry. But yeah, no, I started out on the stage very young, 6 years old, and possibly as a direct result of my father's passing. I don't know that the two are directly correlated, but I do know that when my father passed away, first of all, I didn't really outwardly grieve his passing for quite a long while. It was 6 years before I really actually processed that the finality of death and my father's passing. And I think as a result of that, my mom and my uncle were anxious to find an outlet for me, an emotional outlet particularly. And stage and theater just kind of fell in my lap. You know, the universe works in odd and mysterious ways, always to direct our path. And in this situation, my uncle worked downtown, very close to the main theater district, had overheard a casting director complaining about how hard it was to find somebody to play Tiny Tim. And here I was, a very, very small, wee youth. And he just asked, how did they do that? And they got us in contact, and I ended up taking the stage at 6 years old.
Wow, Tiny Tim. I mean, that brings back memories. First of all, I want to honor you for sharing that part of the story. I mean, I'm sure you've talked about it before. I know it's never easy to lose somebody being vulnerable. You were, of course, something you said sent me on a journey in my head here, Tyler, that at age 6, I totally understand that the brain is not developed enough really to understand or rationalize. Uh, can you tell us just quickly it was a motor vehicle accident? Were you involved in that, or?
No, it was a single occupant, single vehicle motor vehicle accident. What had happened, my father was a teacher, a high school teacher, math and science, really well respected, but young and ambitious, very entrepreneurial. And my godfather had moved back to town. Him and his wife had lived in Winnipeg and moved to Calgary. So for the Canadians, you understand where it is. For our Southern listeners, it's far. It's like basically going from Minnesota to Denver.
Yeah.
And both of those two wonderful men fed off of each other's ideas in an amazing way. And they decided they wanted to open a restaurant. My father had a passion for cooking, loved food. To this day, I've never had a French onion soup that has surpassed the one that he used to serve us.
Awesome.
And it was a thing that he wanted to do. So he took a sabbatical from teaching, and they found a spot and a venue. And starting February 1st of 1986, they, being my father and my godfather, started assembling this restaurant for a premiere in March. And they were working tirelessly at it, as men devoted to a passion do.
Yeah.
And 18-hour days add up, especially when you're commuting from a small town that's south. I was in a very, very rural community. At the time was an hour and 20-minute drive south of Calgary. Now you do the commute in 30 minutes because Calgary's expanded and the roads have gotten faster. But my father ended up falling asleep at the wheel. And because it was a very rural community, basically drove through a field and smashed into what used to be an old munitions bunker. And so 4-foot thick concrete and 3-foot high wall, and a Chrysler K car does not add up well.
Does not withhold. No, that wouldn't hold its own.
And unfortunately with that, he was only 10 days into his venture and passed away suddenly very quickly.
Wow. Well, what a change. So thanks for sharing that. And so at age 6 there, you're standing on a stage. I can't imagine what that's like. So tell us
the most exhilarating thing ever.
I bet. Well,
yeah.
So take us through that. What was that all about?
Well, it was, again, looking for an outlet for me to kind of process emotions. The arts just kind of came to me. A lot of people say, well, when did you start acting? Well, I would say from the moment I came out of the birth canal.
Yeah.
I was born a performer. I was born an actor. This is in my DNA. It took 6 years for me to find the stage and realize what I was meant to do. And I'm blessed because I got to do that at a very, very young age. I was able to retire at 25 after having 20 years of doing the thing that I love.
That's amazing.
And most people don't even find their passion until they're, some people never do. And a lot of times we're later in life before we're really able to marry our passion and our career. And for me, I was able to do it at a young age, and it was joyous. But I'll never forget the first time being on stage and hearing an audience laugh, and then hearing an audience clap and applause. And I remember the first time I ever got a standing ovation. The energy that comes through that in a room is hypnotizing, it's intoxicating, and it's a feeling, it's a high that I have sought my entire life and will never stop seeking.
It's amazing. It's funny because when I first started thinking about that, watching people like you on the screen, and then as a member of the audience, seeing the crowd get on their feet, you have no way when you're watching it from the other side of what that feels like. That's what, thanks for taking us into that moment. I was quite inspired about the retired age 25. I had this thought that my head went on a journey. Did you ever think of what might have happened if your dad stayed the course? You might be washing dishes. You might be helping behind the scenes at the restaurant. And I want to just throw this at you to talk about. But I I'm a big fan of the word passion, and I agree with you. I watched a TED Talk once, and they said most people don't follow their passion. Usually, people laugh at them, or usually it doesn't pay the bills. And what I see a lot of people try to do is, hey, they get a job, and then they want to be like you, an actor, and they infuse that into somewhere in their life, but that's not their main thing. So, how did you get that? Is your passion? How did you retire to age 25? How do you do that as an actor?
So it very simply, you just stop going to auditions. That's the beautiful thing about acting. In order to perform, you got to audition. What had happened was, and I'm glad that you focused in on the word passion, is I had lost mine at 25. It used to be so much fun. When I was 6, like going through high school.
Yeah.
Actually in high school, I went to a fine arts high school to specialize in musical theater and then minor in performing arts and television. And that was, very freeing for me. But I was also at that, when you're in high school and you've been acting since 6, I had become very complacent and very, I took my craft for granted. And as you had mentioned, at 17, I had a medical incident that paralyzed the left side of my body for a year. And that was a real wake-up call for me because I had to withdraw from my final year in the performing arts program. I couldn't do my final musical. It really had a profound impact on technically my professional career at that point. But what it did do was it gave me a drive and a desire again. Because when you're a performer and you need to use your body for your craft, and suddenly half of it is taken away, it rapidly puts into perspective what's important to you. And I wanted to do everything I could to get back so I could get back on stage.
Wow. Well, geez, thanks for, man, talk about respect growing here. I mean, when I talk about quiet warriors and they have gut punches, losing your dad at 6 was hard enough. And man, when you said that at age 17, you lost half the body, can't imagine. How did that happen?
To this day, medical mystery, things that Tyler will never know. I've had so many scans and tests and prods and poking in my body that I never want to go through again, just trying to figure out what it was. Potentially, it could have been a mini stroke, and it may have been a Bell's palsy. The problem with mini stroke is that it would have been really hard to recover if it was actually like if it was a stroke, I probably would have never recovered function. Mini stroke is kind of one of those weird things where half of medical science says, well, that isn't even a thing. You have a stroke, you don't have a stroke. Problem with Bell's palsy is it would have only affected the face, and I had paralysis on the whole left side of my body. So I've got MRIs. I've got beautiful pictures of my brain that I still keep on my phone because they're really cool.
You should put one up as your screensaver in the back there.
I could actually. I could do the digital and throw it up. But I don't know. They don't know. But it was actually a blessing because I think that if I'd have had a concrete diagnosis, you have X.
Yeah.
It would have limited my options for recovery.
Yeah.
Because it was a mystery and unknown, I could try anything. And I did. I mean, I had Western medicine, Eastern medicine, holistics, like you name it. I had laser acupuncture, regular acupuncture, chiropractic, pharmaceuticals, holistic medicines, traditional shaman work, like you name it. I tried. If somebody said, I can get you to feel a little bit here, I was like, please do. Because that first couple of months was awful for me. They would do these tests where they take this little pinwheel, and by pinwheel I mean pins. Like it went ow, 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 and then it would hit here, and I couldn't feel a thing. And they'd be like, "Tell me when you can feel it again. Tell me when you ow, 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 ow." And it was torturous. I hated it.
Man, so what you're saying, it's not something you do on a first date with somebody else.
It's definitely not something I would know. That's probably like 10th or 12th date kind of material.
So you were 17. Were you by yourself, or were you living
I did. I was at that. So the school that I went to had a billeting program.
Yeah.
So I actually did live away from home, but the incident happened New Year's Day, 1997. So I was actually home for Christmas break.
Yeah.
So I was at my mother's house, and I actually didn't end up going back to school for a little bit afterwards. Again, the school that I went to was very arts focused. We were on the Copernicus system, which is a quarter system for those who don't know. And so where a regular semester, you'll take 4 or 5 classes for half a year, and then another 4 or 5 classes the second half. We would take 2 classes a day, 3 hours in the morning, 3 hours in the afternoon for 10 weeks, and then start over again. And the second semester and third semester, I had a spare. So the morning was off, and I ended up taking, I think at that point I must have been in social or something like that. Well, either way, I ended up taking my other class through correspondence, just because it was hard for me to get. And the school that I was in was another school, like it was in a different town.
Yeah.
And I at that point drove a 1984 Honda Accord, 5-speed standard. And the problem with that is
my yellow Cortina station wagon would have given you a run for it, man.
Yeah, but you can't clutch when your left foot don't work. And
right.
that was the biggest frustration, is I lost my freedom. Like my car represented freedom for me. I could go anywhere that I wanted to. And what's worse is I drummed in a band. And so I still had, I felt like the drummer from Def Leppard, because I couldn't use my left foot and I couldn't use my left hand. So all I had was my right hand and my right foot, but I refused to give up drumming. So I got really good at doing accent notes on the hi-hat coming over to my toms. And I can do one-handed fills beautifully, but now I'm really lazy with my left work. But that's another story for another time.
It is, and I went on a journey in my mind again, so I'm just going to throw this in. For those of you who are Def Leppard fans, you get this. I grew up, I loved the albums, and I think the drummer you referred to, the young guy, if you can watch it on YouTube somewhere, rolled a van or something, lost his arm, and they built this guy a drum kit to literally learn to play, without one arm. And you listen to their albums after. Tyler, it's just amazing. So I want everybody, this is a teaching moment. Come back and listen to this part of the show, the last few minutes. We're talking to Tyler Foley, who's written a book that we'll talk about in a minute, Speaking Naked, Power to Speak Naked, an amazing performer and talent. But you just heard at age 6 lost his father, and another gut punch with a medical incident, lost the use of half his body at age 17. And I want to say this as a teaching moment that I learned a long time ago, that I always wondered, Tyler, with people like the drummer from Def Leppard and guys like you, amazing guys like you, that there are millions of others who lose a limb and they sit in a wheelchair withering away. And then I think about you probably know Hansen, Rick Hansen, another hero in Canada, who basically lost the use of his legs, gets in a wheelchair, starts a journey around the world, and today it's a legacy. And I always used to ask myself, why did the Hansens and why did the Foleys do that when others didn't? And I go back to the part of your story where you said from when you came out of the birth canal, you just wanted to be this acting talent. You want to experience that. And I'll finish with this, give it back to you. That I believe what they say is when you find something that's a burning desire inside, that it's your true passion, it's what you're put here on the planet to do, nothing knocks you off your path. You just keep going and you find a way through it. And so I really am impressed with that journey that you've taken. I want to get into the actual the acting part and the book you've written. Hold it up there. You got that. The Power to Speak Naked. Pretty amazing cover. That's you, right?
Yeah, I would love to claim that. Funny story about the cover. That is a stock image. I mean, we tried to get a close approximatation. Like it's not far off of me. It's close enough that people do have to ask, and they do, and I don't mind. I'm flattered. But yeah, no, that gentleman is a stock image purchased off of a site owned by Jeff Bezos, who also originally published my book under their self-publishing wing.
Yeah.
It has now been picked up by Morgan James, so it's in bookstores everywhere starting September 7th.
All
But
right.
the funny thing about that cover is that, yes, it was a stock photo purchased from Jeff Bezos' site, but when I go to advertise said book on said site, Jeff Bezos tells me that I'm not allowed to because it contains overly sexualized content and specifically draws undue attention to body parts such as breasts and or buttocks. So I can buy the image, but I can't use it to advertise my own book.
The world we live in. And you know what? Everybody now, after hearing that, we're going to highlight that in the show notes, is going to go out and buy the damn book. To find
Please
that
do.
out.
I hope they do.
So I have a question I wrote down here that the about this power to speak naked. Here's the question: why visualizing your audience naked never helps to let go of stage fright? Talk about
Dumbest advice ever given.
Because I grew up learning that in business. People said pretend they're naked.
Pretend they're naked or in their underwear. I know. And here's the thing: like, what a waste of mental capacity. And I don't know where it started. I can only surmise that the advice was to try and regain power or comfort through somebody else's stripping of power and discomfort. And to me, that seems like it's so perverse. That, never mind the actual act of physically picturing somebody naked, but the warped sense that would provide, like, how is that even appropriate? And so for me, when I was writing the book and my team and I were sitting together, because it's an advice book, I wanted to ask, what is some advice that you've gotten around speaking? And as you had said, growing up, public speaking, it's the first thing that people say. Well, if you're nervous, picture your audience naked. And one of my team members had said it, and I went on a tirade. I went, no, it's the worst advice, and similar to what I'd said here. And then at the end of it, I had said, listen, I would rather give somebody the power to go up on stage and speak naked themselves than to waste time picturing the audience naked. And everybody kind of looked at each other in the room and they went, well, there's the title of the book. All right.
Hey, I got to ask you this. So we got to teach our audience here, because a lot of people are lay people. They're not speakers or actors. Can actors be speakers and vice versa?
Little call, definitely the one. I think that a lot of actors make incredible orators because we innately want to connect emotion to words. And if you want to be an incredible speaker, if you want to be able to truly impact people with the words, you have to have emotional subtext to the text that you are giving to your audience. And so the words have to have emotional connection, and actors naturally are going to do that. Now, can all speakers be actors? No, because not all speakers are able to connect subtext to their words, and not everyone has that emotional thrust or impact with their audience. The good speakers are, and I think there are a lot of people who could do both. But I definitely think that anybody who, particularly if you're a really good actor, and that's why you see so many actors get up and be political activists, whether they understand the cause that they're flouting or not, they are very good at portraying their outrage with whatever topic that they want to discuss. And so I think that's why you see a lot of actors get into activism, because they have a platform and they have a fame. So people are going to watch them, and there's going to be a natural resonance with how they discuss or bring to view a topic.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I'm going to get back to you in a minute. I just want to comment on that and ask you to tell us how new speakers can quickly inspire their audience. One of the things you said about subtext and attaching that to the words, and to me, a dummy 101 for speakers is, if I forgive me for using this example, but I use it to honor your situation. So you lost your father at age 6. So I decide on a stage to try to act or speak and tell that story, but attached to an emotion. Man, that's hard. I'd like to know what do you have to go on in your head, because I didn't live that scenario I'm just guessing that maybe I have to find and attach to something else that brings that same emotion, or maybe it's just practice. Just tell us more, and then give us the goods about how we can quickly inspire the audience if you're a new speaker.
So to answer the last question first, to inspire your audience as a new speaker, you need to get your audience on your side very fast so that they can process what your viewpoint is. And the fastest way to do that is through the power of story. Now, when you're doing this, the critical question to ask is, what do I need to do to serve my audience? So many speakers focus on me, this is my authority, this is why I am up here. It doesn't matter why you're up there. Anybody could have been put up there. We chose you for a reason. You now have the authority granted to you to go up, but ultimately you're there because you're going to serve an audience. So what do you need to do to serve the audience? And the best way to get an audience on your side is to tell them a powerful story. The powerful story should be personal to you, because nobody knows your story better than you. Giving an anecdote of something that happened to somebody else somewhere down the line does no good. There's no emotional tie to that. And then, what is the emotion that I need to portray? Is it sad? Is it happy? Is it questioning? Do you need to make your audience curious? And so finding out what the emotional outcome needs to be will influence what the emotion that you insert into your story is, and how you tell the story. Because believe it or not, I can actually tell the story of my father's passing and make it entertaining and funny. I don't do it often, but I can. And it's that, I think Mark Twain said it best, the difference between tragedy and comedy is time. How we frame and filter a thing. You can make something that is incredibly funny also be tragic and sad.
Yeah.
It's all about the context and subcontext.
Oh, that's amazing. We're learning so much here from you, and I just want to riff on that for a minute. So I was thinking about, I joined a Toastmasters group, and those who don't know Toastmasters, it's a public speaking organization around the world. And, I thought I could speak. I was 30 years, Tyler, if you know a bit about my background. I was in the corporate sector, and I did a lot of things in leadership. But I spoke, and I had arrogance. I thought, I could spoken in rooms. I've spoken in front of hundreds of people at conferences. Dude, PowerPoint, standing in front of a podium, that ain't speaking. So then when I tried to do a TED Talk, you really got me going on something. I love you for this. And I did a podcast on this to be vulnerable, but I failed the first time to get my TED Talk. And when I got the feedback, it was a gut punch. And this is what I was told. They didn't really like you at first because it was all about you. Because I was talking about my book and, how I was a successful guy. And then I started using other people's stories. And that, I remember after, a little voice came to me from the stage group and said, "We want to hear about your story." And man, you just nailed it. I mean, you gave us such a gift there. That took me all my life to really understand and learn. It's not about me. And so I want you to teach me something here, because I'm going to bring a personal story out. That my father passed away January 2018. And, if you look into my backstory, which is in the book I did and things like that, my dad was a drunk, and he was a commanding officer in the military, and left home when I was 12. Took the brunt of most of that, went out into the world, and I saw my dad 3 months before he passed away. Just by chance, I reconnected with him after probably 10 years of not being involved in his life. And so there was forgiveness and some emotion. I couldn't show emotion because I was so disconnected from my dad. But my meaning of my father in my mind, as you can probably deduce from some of the things I've just told you, was not positive. In fact, I didn't like him. So I decided when I get into Toastmasters to do my very first talk, an icebreaker talk. And I tell the story of that Starbucks meeting with my dad. And I tell that story about how he came in the door. I hadn't seen him for 10 years. And there was, he had forgiveness and all this. And then I got the feedback after. I did so well in many areas, but somebody said, "What was going on in your head?" Because when you said that he said, "I love you, son." They said, "We want to see you pause more." And so this is what I'm trying to develop in my own speaking. And so I know I'm long-winded on this, but here's the question for you. My father, I didn't have a very good meaning of that relationship. I never saw him for 10 years. Now he's gone. And I have to try to talk about it and infuse emotion that now instinctively is not there. It's probably going to take time. So if you're coaching me and I was redoing that little talk about the meeting with my dad, what should I do? Should I try to find a time in my life with him way back where there was some type of emotion, or should I reframe it through something else and visualize that?
Well, I'm not going to shoot on you because I think it's rude. Um,
But
the
you can.
Yeah, no. So here's the thing, and you actually made a very good point. You said, "Should I put in emotion that isn't there?" No, but the question that needs to be answered is why? And
Ah,
that's what your topic should explore. It's not that you need to put emotion that isn't there,
yeah,
because that's false. Now, and we always talk about, right, authentic speakers.
yeah,
That word drives me crazy. I
yeah,
hate it, Tom. I hate it with all of my gut, because to me, authenticity is synonymous with self-awareness. You
yeah,
can't be authentic if you're not self-aware. And we know your audience knew. They're like,
yeah,
something doesn't ring
yeah,
right there.
exactly.
And now you're trying to infuse an emotion that doesn't exist, when the reality is the exploration, the true depth that you can get to comes from, why don't
Why
I
I can't.
feel emotion?
You
You
just,
know, I
man,
had
a
it.
light bulb just went on. I'm sorry, you
I'm
just got me excited. A light bulb came on. This is amazing. I mean, this is why people have to get your book. We'll talk about that at the end and follow you. Here's the thing that my light just went on my head. We didn't script this. I didn't tell you I was going to talk about this, right?
No.
At
And
that,
so,
yeah,
just to
I just
further
got to,
onto it, Tom, you
yeah.
you finish yours, and then I'm going to tell you something else.
So here's the deal. It just came on. I That's a big part of what I need to explore, because I don't know why I can't show that emotion. But here's the thing, what you just said. There's many people I know who have told me that somebody passed or something happened and they can't cry, they can't show emotion. That's that's huge. Thank you. Go back go back into your
Well,
story.
and so here's the thing, and one of the things that we always teach in any of the workshops that I do, whether it's the 2.5-day seminar, the 5-day workshop, or even my online training, one of the first things that I really try to hammer home to people is, the thing you're afraid to say is
Yeah.
probably the thing that your audience needs to hear. And maybe the thing that you're afraid to say is, I had no relationship with my father, and after 10 years, this meeting was emotionless for me.
Yeah.
Or maybe there is an emotion that you felt, but it wasn't the one that you were supposed to. And that's probably the thing that the audience who can identify with that,
Yeah.
who can recognize that, with who have had a relationship with a parent that was maybe not ideal. It's going to resonate with them. They're going to want to hear that. For me, I know, I was emotionally stunted because of my age when my father passed. It wasn't that I didn't want to grieve his passing. It's that at 6 years old, you don't understand
Yeah.
the finality of it.
That's right.
And I will never forget the day that it dawned on me that my father wouldn't come, because it was one of the most exciting days of my life. And it was in 6th grade. I was at the back of the auditorium, because, when you're in elementary school, they seat you youngest to oldest. And when you're in the 6th grade, you're the oldest. And so I'm at the back of my school gymnasium. And there were 5 of us in this core social group that were very dedicated scholastically. All of us were sons of educators. And I'll never forget, Liam Stone to the one side, David Graham to the other. We were like the best of friends. And Jaron L. Arca was there, and some of my other friends, and we were all excited because we all had straight A's. Like, it was rare to have such a group of young men who were striving. That was the goal, like straight A's. I'd had straight A's since I was in the 4th grade, and I didn't want that to go. And we were about to learn who was the top student of the two graduating classes, the grade 6 classes, who was the top student. And I remember Jay Arnell leaned over David and said, "It's you, Tyler." And I said, "No, it's not." And Liam on this side looks at me and he goes, "No, it's you." And I go, "How do you know?" He's like, "Because this is how smart he is." He's like, "Well, because I can read it in reverse." And I'm like, "Well, you can read in reverse. If you can see through the parchment and you can read in reverse, you're smarter than me. It's going to be you." Anyway, my teacher says, "Tyler Foley." And now I'm beaming with pride, and I stand up and walk along the edge of the gymnasium, and all the parents were lined up along the edge, right?
Yeah.
And I remember seeing my mom, and she's doing the happy cry, and she's got a tear in her eye, and I'm excited. And as I walk past her, the chair beside her was empty. To this day, I have no idea why that chair was empty, but as soon as I saw my mom and the empty chair, I looked beside her and I thought to myself, my dad should be there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the moment I thought that, as I'm walking up to get this certificate and a $100 bursary that goes with it, all of a sudden I think to myself, my dad's not going to see me graduate. He's not going to see me graduate high school. He won't see me graduate university. He's never going to see me get married. He'll never get to meet his grandchild. My child will never get to meet their grandparent. And as I'm thinking it, I'm overwhelmed with this emotion and this finality. I'm realizing for the first time, my father is dead.
Yeah.
And that means he won't be here ever. And I was devastated by it. And so I'm crying, and people think that I'm happy tear crying, but in reality, I have no idea how to compose myself because all I can think about is my dad. And then as I'm walking back, it dawns on me, the chair isn't empty. He had to have been there. Why else would that chair? It was packed. It was a full auditorium.
Yeah.
Why else would it have been empty? My father was there with me in spirit. And then that lifted me, knowing that no matter where I was in life, my father would see me. He would know what I was doing. And that has been a life-altering and changing moment for me. And you can tell that story any way that you want. Again, you can make it tragic, you can make it happy. But the point of telling a story, and Les Brown says this famously, never make a point without a story, never tell a story without a point. The point of that story is that you never know when that moment is going to happen where you have that emotional connection, but you don't have to force an emotion if you don't feel it, because it's up to you to realize what it is.
That is so good. First of all, what a story. Never make a point without a story, and never tell a story without a point. Everybody, another teaching moment. Just so much for learning from Tyler Foley today. And you know what? It's a gift because I got some pretty bad feedback, and I got a shift. And I'm not going to try to fake my way and try to redo that story and put emotion in that's not there. That's such a great point. How do you feel?
If I may, Tom, you didn't get bad feedback. You got corrective feedback that you're going to put in.
Yes, absolutely. Hey, man, thanks. You see, that cup's always half full. Love it. Love you, man. We're going to wind up in a few minutes, but filling the seats every time you speak, I'd imagine that. Just tell us a bit about the speaking you've done. I assume it's being on stage, what size of crowds, and then putting. A lot of people want to go out and speak, but it's like, you got to have to make sure people are in the room.
So filling the room. What a challenge. I've presented to audiences as few as 3.
Yep.
And as many as just under 10,000. And I'll tell you, it's easier when somebody else fills the room for you. So as a speaker, I'm happy to apply to the different venues, and when you have when there's a call for speaker, I'm constantly Googling call for speakers. And it's a fast way to find stages to be on. Is find out what your topic you speak on, and then where you want to speak, and then Google that search Yes, thank you.
That was celebrating the student of the year.
Yeah, there you go. Yes. Well, and it's so easy to do because you literally type it into the field,
Yep.
leadership or executive leadership and Calgary or Vancouver or Boston or Chicago or
Yep.
Milan, wherever you want to speak, and you type in those fields and then call for presenters or call for speakers.
Yeah.
And then when you can see those opportunities, that's a lot nicer because somebody else is doing the promotion for you. When you have to do it yourself, oh man, is that a grind and a hustle? I mean,
Yeah.
I have got a army, not just a team, an army of people behind me who push and promote when I do my own venues. I'm lucky and blessed that I'll be going down to Dallas to help out. I'm just volunteering.
Yeah.
Not even speaking, volunteering at an event that's happening in Dallas on November 3rd. And I'm going to then do my own event because I'm already going to be down there. So I might as well do my own event. And so I've put on my own event and we've rented space in Dallas and I'll be doing it over the weekend and I'll put on my 2.5-day workshop. Well, because I'm volunteering for the one and I'm part of the sales team, I know what the numbers for Dallas are for that event, and they're significantly better than what they are for mine because I don't have the money that the other team has, and I certainly don't have the name draw of some of the names that are coming to that stage. I mean, they've got Tony Robbins and Phil Town and Molly Bloom and some just amazing speakers that are coming. So, and I'm just volunteering. I'm just there to help coordinate. I'm literally there to help coordinate the volunteer staff that'll be there. But for my own event, I think we've sold 4 tickets.
Yeah.
Right now. Now it's November and I have time to do it. But I mean, there's so much to just bringing an awareness to you and what you do. And so I would encourage people, if you're speaking, speak not to the size of the crowd, but to the size of the hearts that you want to change in the crowd, and you will never go wrong. I literally did present to 3 people, and it's probably the best talk that I ever gave because it was very focused and very dedicated. And what sucked about it was I had rented out an auditorium that sat 300 people. So I had 1% capacity going, and but they sat up front and I delivered probably, like I said, the best talk because I was there to serve them. As long as you're serving your audience, it doesn't matter the size.
That's great advice. It's listen, when you go do your little speech or your big speech there, set up a camera in your room pointing at you and then the camera of the audience in the other one and splice it together. There's your audience. There's your big audience.
Massive one.
My mind went on a journey, and I just want to say this and then move to wrap up with you. I will have you back again for sure. That I did a stint in network marketing. If you kind of look through my story, and I wrote about this, my wife and I woke up one day, we were part of a Ponzi scheme and ended up, kind of losing everything midway through our life. So we had to start over. I spent a few years goofing around doing stuff. And I remember when I first got into it, I became a diamond distributor. I didn't even know what that meant. It was extremely hard. But, you make a bunch of calls, get people to 10 and 20, say they'll come in 1 or 2. And I remember the first couple times I did a presentation and the room was like half empty. I was horrified. I went down to Mexico and they opened up the whole Mexican market, and some of the bigger people in the company were there, and they rented 400 or 500 room theater and the place was half empty. Mm-hmm. And I just want to say this about books because you're an author, and shout out to your book in a minute, Morgan James Publishing, who published you. That's fantastic. I remember when I wrote my book, I used to ask myself, Tyler, how many people are going to read this thing? And then I started learning as I went along that it doesn't matter if one person reads my book and it inspires them to shift their thinking. It's a home run. It's not about the numbers. So what you said really is inspiring about, you talk of your lifetime. It shouldn't matter how many people are in the room. Show us the book again. I'm going to put you on full screen and then tell us how people can get a hold of you. Tell us about that course you're talking about as well.
Sure. So Power to Speak Naked is
there he is again on the cover.
Yeah, there I am again on the cover. Is available in bookstores September 7th. Anybody who wants to reach me, they can go to SeanTylerFoley.com, and Sean is spelled the proper Irish way, SeanTylerFoley.com. If anybody wants to get in on the pre-sales for the book, again, it'll be in bookstores September 7th, and you can go to your brick and mortar store. But if you can, for your US audience, particularly, if you could go to bookshop.org, and whether it's picking up a copy of The Power to Speak Naked or The Way of the Quiet Warrior, any title that you want to pick up, if you go to bookshop.org, if you're in the States, it will connect you with your local book retailer. And that, it's your brick and mortar stores, your mom and pop stores, and you can get any title there. Any title. Like if it was published on Amazon, you can get it through bookshop.org. But Jeff Bezos, he's going to space. He doesn't need any more cash. But particularly right now, your mom and pop store, your brick and mortar store that's in your local community, probably needs the help. So whether it's a copy of The Way of the Quiet Warrior, it's a copy of The Power to Speak Naked, or any other title that you want to get. If you're in the States, bookshop.org is a great way to do that. And if not, you can always, for us Canucks north of the 39th parallel, if you could go to barnesandnoble.com versus Jeff's site, I would definitely appreciate that. And the pre-sales always are important. And as you said, I'm not worried about how many copies get out, just that the copies that do get out go to the hands of the people that really truly need it, and that my message is heard. To answer your question, the event will be November in Dallas. Anyways, will be in November 5th, 6th, and 7th. We actually don't have our location locked down yet because we're waiting on numbers. And once we have that finalized mid-October, we'll be releasing that. And it's all on the website, SeanTylerFoley.com. Everybody can get it there. And then I have another event scheduled in April, and that will probably be the 5-day event that'll be happening in Nashville. And my next Canadian one will be a toss-up. Very likely going to be on the island. So we're thinking Victoria, possibly Vancouver, or maybe I'll kick one off here in Calgary. We will be reaching all 3 cities for sure, but I'm not sure which one is going to be the premier one, and probably happening in the new year, like January, February. So watch the website for updates.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Thanks, Tyler. I'm going to put all that in the show notes so you can shoot me a note with the exact things you just said. I'm going to make a public commitment that I'm going to get the book, going to read it, and going to promise a review. Everybody, how authors get known is our work's not known unless you read our books and post a review. So give it a review, post it on barnesandnoble.com, and goodreads.com is what I'll probably do.
Yeah, Goodreads is what needs to be done. And I'll be doing the same thing. The Way of the Quiet Warrior is on its way.
Awesome. I have one more tip for you. When you go to, don't worry about ticket sales. It's COVID. So you're Canadian, you're polite, just 50 feet apart, everybody. We're keeping you safe. The 7 of you that are here. Yeah, just Canadian.
Yeah.
I'm getting excited because that thing about the island in Vancouver, I just want you to know we're connected now for life through our stories, what we're doing. If I can be there, man, I'm going to learn from you. I can get better at speaking. So we're going to wrap up by honoring you. Yeah, you don't know if you know this. You probably did with an award. So I'm going to full screen me for a minute. You're probably saying, why are you full screening you when I'm getting the award? Well, there's a reason for it. All right. You see behind the screen there? Mm-hmm. There's this thing. It's called a challenge coin. And challenge coins, World War II started. Basically, soldiers carried them to commit to each other in community. And when I started the show, honestly, Tyler, I wanted to bring people who had a deep story. They did something with something of adversity and turned it into something purposeful so we can learn. And I created this show coin. The front is the hand-painted raised letters of the show. The back is actually the beautifully illustrated hero's journey narrative from Joseph Campbell's work. So we're inducting you today into the Quiet Warrior Tribe by receiving this, and there's less than 50 a year that go out. And I believe now we're into 15 countries with them. We're carrying them together to commit to using that passion. Never stop doing what you're doing, dude, to help one person. I want to just honor you with this. 4 words. These are leadership words. I don't prescript them. I write them as you're talking. The first one is heroic. The 2 setbacks you had in getting through that, tremendous. 2 is storyteller. You're a great storyteller. Self-awareness, another leadership skill, and resilient to keep moving forward. And you taught me something on the show today. I had a breakthrough in terms of my speaking. So I want to thank you for that. So everybody, find this show on the Quiet Warrior Show wherever you listen to podcasts so we can honor it, give it a rating. And the YouTube premiere video will come out in the future. We'll get that out. So click the button, subscribe to the Tom Dutta YouTube channel, and you'll be able to watch this whole thing, including Tyler Foley with his shirt off. Or maybe just the cover of your book. Last word to you, man. Wrap it up.
Well, just honestly, thank you, Tom, for having such an incredible platform. And I love your book. You know, it's one of those things. There's a lot of self-help books out there, but messaging comes in different ways. And to have 90 Days to the Life You Desire out there is an incredible accomplishment on yours. And for having this show put together, I want to thank you. And I would encourage anybody who's getting value out of listening to your show, if they are getting value from it, to do exactly what you said. Give it a 5-star review, give it a like, give it a share, give it a comment. Go through the episodes and what was the one that stood out, and really highlight that for you, because same as being an author, we need the 5-star reviews. When you're doing the podcast, we need the 5-star reviews. So if your audience is getting value out of what you're doing right now, Tom, I would encourage them right now, hit pause. You're already on the device. Give it a 5-star review, and thank you for the opportunity to be on here and to serve your audience.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm so humbled. I'm going to take that little audio clip and add it to every one of the episodes so that I don't have to say that. And
it's my gift to you.
It is. It really is. And this just did. Now that you've said that, I'm not a bragger, but seeing that you opened that up, everybody, I'm really proud that we were just given the honor of being in the top 20 leadership podcasts in Canada to listen to in 2021. That's by FeedSpot. If you go to my website, KREAT.ca, on the media page, you'll see the press release. And this will give Tyler's episode a broad listen, because we're getting a lot of people learning from the show. So thanks again, Tyler. We'll have you back anytime.
It was a joy and a pleasure, and we'll talk to you soon, Tom.
All right, everybody, find your true passion, like you hear from Tyler there. Live with your purpose. Live the life that you deserve and desire.
Thank you for listening to The Quiet Warrior Show. Create is a motive-based leadership development firm. www.kreat.ca